right, it's 8 o'clock, right on time, and we are so thrilled that you are joining us for this kind of smashed together Eclipse special.
Where did we get that fancy little animation there?
There's a lot of fancy things that are about to be
Did you do
unveiled
that on your
here.
weather computer?
I did not do it on the weather computer.
You should have said yes.
No, the corporate group has, very high paid graphic designers that make fancy things for
If nothing else, we look like a professional show with that. That was great.
We're here to try to be professional, at least. This is Jay Crawford, I'm Betsy Kling, and we are going to be eclipsing in Cleveland in just a few days. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to give everybody an idea of what to expect when we're eclipsing, right? Because we haven't been through this. I went through it in 2017 in Jefferson City, and I can't even tell you, ever since that moment when Totality hit, I have been waiting for it to hit here in Cleveland, which happens on Monday. And the other part is I have been waiting because the weather forecast. And all I want is for everybody to get a glimpse at it. It is that
right.
cool.
Now, I'll have a lot of silly questions through this because it's just, I'm wondering because there's a chance of overcast skies. I guess we're supposed to get some rain early, and I don't want to steal your forecast thunder, but what percent of, I guess it's clear, like if you say it's partly cloudy, partly sunny, like at what point will we start to just really not be able to appreciate this?
Well, I think
total clouds?
There's some people who think it's got to be blue skies, no clouds whatsoever to appreciate it.
Right.
There's other people who realize that even if it's completely cloud covered, we will still experience the eclipse.
It will still get dark.
It will still get dark. The street lights will still come on. All the things happen. So it's still going to be the experience that we have. The difference is the corona of the sun, which is the very awesome veiling. It's the atmosphere of the sun that we are only able to see in a total solar eclipse.
It's fascinating. I'm sure you're going to talk about your 2017 experience, but briefly, what was the most exciting, most memorable thing about that for you?
The really cool parts, there's something called Bailey's beads, which we're going to talk about. That was my favorite thing.
Bailey's beads?
Bailey's beads.
Okay.
And then as soon as Totality hit, people took off their glasses, the reaction. Some people cried, some people cheered, there was jumping up and down, dancing. And then, everybody's looking at the sun. I was looking around. Obviously, I looked up a few times, but I was looking around because there is so much to see. It is like no other experience. And so hopefully we all will get to see it.
Fingers crossed.
And we're not alone in this. There's a whole path of totality. Brandon, let's cue that video. Brandon Simmons.
What does that mean, path of totality, by the way?
So this is the zone. So you got this line, right? This is the zone where the full disk of the sun will be blocked by the moon. Okay?
So it's going to come into the
comes in over Mexico, and it hits Mexico at 1 p.m. or so, and will continue to move to the northeast at about 1,500 miles per hour at this point.
Really?
It's a quick thing. I mean, we only get 3 minutes and 50 seconds of totality here in Cleveland. They'll get about 4 minutes and 26 seconds in Mexico and in Southwest Texas. Comes right up over Eagle Pass and Uvalde, Texas. As it continues to move to the northeast, it's going to go up over Waco and Dallas, and continue then to move up toward areas of Arkansas, and obviously we eventually will get into Illinois and whatnot. So it's expected to go up over Dallas, Texas at about 2:30 p.m. So think about that, 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. It's in, it's out. At 3 o'clock it crosses the Mississippi River as it continues to move to the northeast.
Now, why is the shape of it changing, Bets?
So think about this as the Earth is rotating. And just like in the afternoon, your shadows from the sun are a lot longer.
Okay.
We are changing the angle that we're seeing what's going on. So we've stopped it here, and this is approximately 3:15 in the afternoon. This is totality in the land, and you can see the kind of oblong shape, so it's kind of cool because it's starting to stretch out. We'll have 3 minutes and 50 seconds of totality.
How different will it be for someone in the center of that sphere to someone on the edge of it?
Anybody in the black will have totality. It's a matter of how long the totality will be.
Got it.
So Cleveland gets 3 minutes and 50 seconds or so of totality. Akron will have about 2 minutes less.
Now in Maine, when it's so long, they'll have an extended view,
but it's
won't
moving
they?
faster at that point.
Oh, it is.
So yeah, they actually don't get quite the view that we do. So it's a super cool thing, right? So let's cue up Ohio, because we do have the sorry, Brandon, back one more. The stopped map, because
Well,
now
it was
you'll be
frozen
able to
over
see
Ohio.
the whole strip as it moves across the country. There it is.
Oh, cool.
This is from NASA. They put this together. It's so slick, and you can really see how things change, right, as that track continues to move to the northeast. It's stretching as the Earth is rotating. That shadow begins to stretch out, and it's moving faster at that point because of that, you know, the angle of approach is changing.
Right.
So cool stuff. All right, now let's talk weather. This is what everybody is curious about, obviously, because are we going to get to see it? Remember, clouds come in different shapes, sizes, forms,
Right.
and
density?
transparencies.
Yeah, transparency.
Right? So if we have a very opaque cloud cover, obviously we're not going to see it. But you can sometimes monkey with things. When I was in Jefferson City, we had a high cirrus deck. I saw everything. Technically,
What does that mean, a high cirrus
with the
deck?
high, thin, wispy cirrus clouds.
Okay.
Technically, that was a mostly cloudy sky. So that would be reported as mostly cloudy. We're going with, at this point, a little less cloud cover than we had in the forecast yesterday. Just a pinch.
Okay.
And the forecast confidence in that has gone up.
Oh, good. As we get
Which is
closer
good.
to it, sure.
So what I'm saying in this graphic is that, yes, we will have clouds in the area. But really, all we need is either a window in low cloud cover, which looks to be happening, or if we have some high residual high thin cloud cover, I think we'd be able to see through it. The storm that we are kind of tracking is just now out in the Rockies. They've been getting belted with snow out in the Rockies, and that storm system is going to come into the Plain States through the day on Saturday and emerge with a big old rain shield well east of it on Sunday. So as this storm is wrapping up, we're going to have more of a south to north push of that rain. And as it gets in, it starts to stretch out a little bit, so you can see it becomes more scattered by Monday morning. So Monday morning, we are anticipating cloud cover.
Okay.
And rain.
So don't be upset if you wake up
Don't
Monday
freak out,
to
because
cloudy
by
skies.
afternoon, as of right now, it looks like the rain either dissipates and moves east because the whole thing is stretching out, or it just can't hold itself together. This is the European model that I'm showing you right now.
You've
and
told me
that
in the
keeps
past
us
that
dry.
those are typically most reliable.
I rely on the Euro a lot. There is a side-by-side. Anthony put this together for us, Anthony Copeland, and he's been kind of keeping an eye on this aspect of all of it. Right now, I would say we stand a pretty good shot at seeing the corona of the sun.
Wow.
I don't know that we're going to get 3 minutes and 50 seconds, the whole thing.
Right.
But I think we at least stand a shot right now. I would tell you if it was no-go. I would also tell you if there was no problem. But we're kind of stuck in this middle, and we really won't know until probably 3 o'clock.
Now, I know
honest.
this is a tough question because we've talked about this before, but I like that you're gauging a degree of confidence that you
Right.
have. In the past, is it more common than not that those, like, what are the chances that that system slows Monday, and instead of it being in and out Monday morning,
Right.
it drags into the afternoon?
Well, the interesting thing is I've been watching this system now for a week.
Right.
Over a week. You know, as soon as it came into a 16-day window of one of the models, and then 10-day window, so it's been happening. It's been speeding up. That's not unusual.
Oh.
Because long-term forecasts, it's very hard to kind of lock in on details.
Sure.
So a lot of times the adjustment we've noticed will kind of speed things along. So it sped up a little bit because that storm system wasn't supposed to be here till Tuesday. Then it kind of sped up a little bit to Monday afternoon. Now it looks Sunday night into Monday morning, and it's weakening as it comes in.
All good stuff.
All good things. So
Yeah.
we definitely have some high hopes, right? All right. Well, I will tell you that the eclipse is super cool. I'm not the only person who has any kind of ability to tell you that. These things have been going on as long as the Earth has been orbiting the sun and the moon has been orbiting the Earth. And as a matter of fact, there are tons of people who love eclipses. This guy, Brian Brewer, wrote this entire book, Eclipse, Experience Awe in the Path of Totality. I interviewed this author because I wanted his perspective. He goes through a lot of the history and past eclipses, and I was really fascinated by that. So let's hear what he has to say.
Oh, well, the eclipses have been observed pretty much since the beginning of recorded history. Probably 2000 BC, I think, was the first recorded eclipse. So, ancient civilizations knew about this. They knew about the orbit of the sun and the moon, and how everything lined up. And what's especially interesting to me is that some astronomers and archaeologists discovered about last century, they discovered that Stonehenge, which is a prehistoric monument, could actually have been used to predict eclipses or to predict when there were these danger periods when eclipses were going to occur. So it was a big deal. There are, the Chinese thought that the dragon was eating the sun, and they would, whenever the eclipse would happen, they would beat pots and pans or make a lot of noise to scare away the dragon. And guess what? It worked every time. And in the Middle East, I think it was 585 BC, there were a couple of armies that were at war, and they happened to be having a battle right in the path of a total eclipse. And when that occurred, they took that as a sign that they ought to maybe make peace, which they did. And so eclipses have power. I think that's the main message I want to get, is their power to inspire, power to serve as a sign if that's what you want to see. But they're really powerful events to observe.
About that.
That's fascinating.
Stonehenge. How about that?
Just the fact that I love hearing him talk about how different cultures viewed it.
Right.
And if you think about it, we can predict it, which I have to ask you about later. Like, how they figure this out is mind-boggling to me. But they didn't know it was coming.
No.
And you have to wonder what they were thinking. It's funny, the Chinese banged on the pots and pans.
Right, they thought the dragon. Interestingly enough, here in North America, obviously North America has been around a long time, there were some anthropologists studying some petroglyphs in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. And we have a picture to show you. And you tell me what you think. What do you do you think maybe that kind of looks like some of the eclipse cartoons and animations that we've been showing you? So you can see obviously the circle there, which is filled in, and this is a petroglyph. So there's all kinds of writings and inscriptions that are carved into this rock. And then you see all the little swirls. So the anthropologists that were studying the petroglyphs out there in Chaco Canyon were like, gosh, it kind of looks like a total solar eclipse, right?
Sure.
So who do we ask? Well, they called some astronomers and they said, hey, we have this thing, we think maybe it might be, can you check out, were there any total solar eclipses in this area? And the astronomers were like, stand by. Rolled back the clock, and they figured out 1097. In 1097, there was a total solar eclipse over
that
New
area.
Mexico, and they believe that is when the Chaco Canyon.
Okay, that is fascinating.
I know.
To me.
I thought that was so cool.
I don't know, Brandon, if we could take another shot of that. I think I've just discovered something else about the photo.
Uh-oh.
It looks as if they carved a little gentleman up there at the top who's cheering wildly about I think he really liked it.
Maybe he's banging on the pots and pans.
Or maybe he
You just
is.
never know. Full
So
circle.
basically what you're saying, because I never would have seen that and said, oh, that's an eclipse.
Right.
But when you explained it to me about how the little squigglies around the
Right.
sun would be the corona rays
Yeah.
or whatever, I can see it now.
And props to the anthropologists who are looking at it and going, geez, you got these little figures doing their thing and hunting and all that, and then there's this squiggly thing, and somebody along the way thought, I wonder if that could be an eclipse.
Anywhere in your rundown, do we have time to talk about how in the world they figure out not only when this was going to come, but I'm sure they could project forward thousands of years to know the exact moment of future eclipses? That is a really large calculator.
Math is awesome. And we actually have a special guest from NASA coming in just a couple
good.
minutes, so stand
Good.
by on that for
Yes.
sure. But let's talk about how this all takes place, because there's a lot of geometry that's involved, and astronomers are the ones that really kind of keep an eye on how everything lines up and whatnot. Christopher Carr is a fifth-year PhD student at Columbia in New York City.
Wow.
He is from Strongsville. He got his undergrad in astronomy and physics from Case Western Reserve University, and he explains for us how these eclipses happen.
Here in Northeast Ohio, we're going to see one of the most rarest, but I think one of the most beautiful astronomical phenomena that there is, which is a total solar eclipse. And to get a total solar eclipse, like what is it? Like how do we actually get these things? Like why is it so special? To get a total solar eclipse, there are three important factors. So first, you need the correct phase of the moon. So like the moon orbits the Earth, and it takes about 1 month to complete one orbit. In fact, that's actually why the word moon and month sound very similar. It's because they actually share a common origin in the English language. And so the different phases of the moon track the moon at different parts in its orbit around the Earth. And so for a solar eclipse, you need the moon in front of the Earth with respect to the sun. And so that gives you a new moon where the bright side of the moon is facing the sun, and the dark side, its shadow, is facing towards the Earth. So that's the first thing you have to satisfy. The second most important thing is you need the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun to be in the perfect alignment. And something that's often not well appreciated is that the orbital plane, so the plane that the Earth orbits the Sun, is actually slightly misaligned with the orbital plane that the Moon orbits the Sun in. In fact, they're tilted and they're quite offset by about 5 degrees, which may not sound like much, but this is huge in astronomical terms. And so what this means is that for most of the year, the Sun, the Earth, and the Moon are not aligned, but there are 2 points in their orbits where they actually intersect. And so it's at these 2 points, which happens about twice a year, where you do get the perfect alignment between the Sun, the Earth, and the Moon. This is where eclipse can happen. In fact, if that offset were 0, so if the Moon orbited the Earth in the same plane as the Earth orbited the Sun, we'd actually get solar eclipses every month. And so, yeah. So at that point, they would be a very mundane thing, like we'd just take it for granted. Oh yeah, it's just the Moon will block the Sun. Like, well, what's so special about it? But it's the fact that this is a rare configuration, and in addition that it's only sort of visible over a small sliver of the globe that really contributes to that novelty and that sense of being a special event. And lastly, the third important factor is you need the Sun and the Moon to be about the same size in the sky. And so the size of the things that we see is determined by 2 factors, both how large the objects are and how far away they are. And so for something like the Sun is huge, it's like 400 times as large in diameter as the Moon. But it also just so happens that the Moon is 400 times closer to the Earth than the Sun is. And so you get this almost like cosmic coincidence in many ways that the size of the Sun lines up with the distance that the Moon is from the Earth, that you get them at approximately the same size in our sky. And so it's really the combination of these 3 things, both having the correct phase of the Moon, the correct alignment, and the correct distances with respect to each other, that you put them all together, you get a total solar eclipse, like what we'll see on Monday here in Northeast Ohio.
I told him he got his PhD in you're done, doctor.
Yeah.
I love it.
I've never felt so dumb.
Right? He's so brilliant.
I mean,
certainly.
It's incredible
right?
to hear him explain that.
And he's a 5th-year PhD student. Meanwhile, here in Northeast Ohio, we have hundreds of very smart people down the road at NASA Glenn who are going to put on quite a show all weekend long at the Great Lakes Science Center and really throughout Northeast Ohio. They're plugged in a whole bunch of different places. Chris Hartenstein with NASA Glenn joins us now. You're kind of the lead on all the Eclipse stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it happened starting with 2017 and doing the Eclipse in Jefferson City, and since then I've been able to do the annular Eclipse in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and now here we are in the next one. So there's not many people at Glenn that have had as many Eclipse times as I have.
Right, so you're getting prepped for a lot, not only with the logistics of all of the science that's going to be happening with the eclipse, but the people who are interested in the science, and that's where all of these outreach opportunities come to the area. So let's talk about Ohio. Brandon, I think we have a map of just Ohio. There we go. This is basically kind of zoomed in on that bigger map that I showed you. So just after 3 o'clock, Totality begins on the west end of the state of Ohio, so at the Indiana state line, and it moves very quickly. How fast is that shadow moving up over Ohio?
So yeah, it's a roughly 1,500 miles per hour going across the surface, and like you said, within 3-ish minutes, we'll start to see totality here in Northeast Ohio.
It's just absolutely incredible, and as you can imagine, it's a process. So this is the one thing that I really wanted to hone in on and help people understand. This is not just all of a sudden totality and then we're done. This is a long process. Please don't be disappointed if at 2 o'clock in the afternoon you're outside and you're like, what's going on? what's happening with
I don't
this thing?
see anything.
This is taking forever, because it does. It takes a long time, but it's worth the wait, most certainly. So let's talk about the progression of Totality, because this is a step-by-step process that is well known, well documented, and mathematically you're able to tell us exactly what time all of these things are going to happen. So Brandon, there's our graphic. So let's talk about this. This is literally the timeline of how this goes down.
Right, so here in Northeast Ohio, a partial eclipse will start right around 2 o'clock. That very early parts, it's hard to see any of the moon starting to get in front of the sun, but you'll notice it more and more as you go along right there starting at 2 o'clock. And so during the time between that and deep partiality, we're talking about the last 15, 20 minutes before totality, the things you'll notice is that the light will gradually start to change. The colors get a little less vivid. The reds and greens start to get a little less vivid out there. You'll start to notice that shadows sharpen up as it goes along, and gradually it becomes much more pronounced the closer we get to totality. Wow. But basically, because the light is not shining anymore from all edges of the sun, but now you're just getting a sliver, that light's much more direct, so we get a lot sharper shadows, we get a lot sharper cutouts.
Rather than a floodlight.
It almost feels like in the span of 2.5 hours, we're going to experience a sunset and a sunrise.
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, I like to compare this to like a roller coaster, right? The entire time that you're waiting in line, you're building up that anticipation, right? And that can be an hour, right?
Sure.
And by the time you get to it, you're like, oh my gosh, it was only a couple of minutes, and then we're done, right? But that whole anticipation and lead up really gets you there. And there are things going on that whole time that you can also enjoy. So as we're talking about the shadows, you can also, as those crescent suns, it's not a crescent moon, it's a crescent sun in this case, you can see those type of shadows anywhere. If there is light shining through trees, you can see those crescent suns on the surface of the ground anywhere the light gets through.
Amazing.
You can just do that with your fingers. It's
and
really
those are the times where we're really not supposed to look at the sun
the
directly,
glasses.
because
Great
the
point.
glasses time. Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
We want to have the glasses on. Anytime we want to directly look up at the sun, you need to have the glasses on. Anytime when even a little sliver of light.
We gave these glasses to school-age kids today, and they couldn't help themselves. They broke them out of the bags and put them on, and they all said the same thing. I can't see anything.
That's good.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yes, these filter out thousands of times darker than a regular pair of sunglasses. So it's good that they don't see a thing. If they did see anything, I'd be a little questionable about those glasses, those Eclipse filters. But they're solar filters, so they are good anytime the sun is shining. You can absolutely put them on. You can try them out, and actually I encourage people to do that in the sunny days leading up, so that you're not doing it for the first time.
And what will we see? Just a small round?
You'll see a beautiful yellowish disc of the sun, but in a much more subtle light, so you can see a nice, perfect disc round of the sun.
You are going to look like a boss mowing.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be out there later this
I will.
It's going to be
exactly.
great. All right, so back to that graphic. Now, the really exciting stuff happens last 5 minutes to totality. So you can hear everybody picking up like their excitement, people are talking, because the light is changing. And right up until the last few seconds before totality, it keeps getting darker and darker and darker. And then my Bailey's beads happen. Tell us about the Bailey's beads. My favorite thing.
Oh, it's so great. So yeah, we have the Bailey's beads phenomenon, which is basically just as the moon's disk is covering up the last bits of the sun, you will notice that there are little glimmers of light along that outer edge. And what that is those are the craters on the profile of the moon that light is still shining past and through and getting to us. The moon is not a perfectly round sphere, and so those little imperfections is enough to let the light glimmer through.
It's really not perfectly round?
No, not exactly. We can see little glimmers of light.
This is why he's here. Have you ever seen a sunset in the mountains?
Yes.
Okay, so as the sun is setting, you get sometimes those rays that come through.
Beautiful.
It's kind of like Bailey's beads.
Okay.
It's really cool, smaller scale obviously, but that's literally the sun shining through canyons and valleys and craters on the surface of the moon.
And it's okay to look at it at that moment without the glasses?
Even then, I would still keep the glasses on.
Oh, you would?
Yes, you still see plenty. The shine of the sunlight at that point is still full intensity at those little dots.
Yeah.
So I would still keep the glasses on. You need to keep the glasses on for that. But you get, it's a good indication, get ready, it's coming.
Right.
Wow.
So within seconds left of that.
Seconds
left, the last little single glow of the last bead of Bailey's beads shines through, and you get a very nice, almost perfect ring around around the moon. So they call that the diamond ring. It just looks like a solitaire ring.
I wondered where that came from.
A solitaire ring with the edge around the outside.
What's fascinating to me is the distance between the moon and the Earth and the moon and the sun is so perfect that it almost makes the two objects look the same size, even though they're vast. I guess the sun, the kids told me today, is 400 times larger than the moon.
Diameter.
Yes, but at that distance, it looks like it's...
And the moon is 400 times closer to us. So it's like the perfect little geometrical
That is magic.
trick.
And you talk about the perfection there. Sometimes it's a little imperfect. If we catch the moon at the furthest point of its orbit,
right,
it is actually too far away, and so it doesn't cover up the entirety of the sun. So in 2023 in October, we had an annular eclipse. Same concept, but the moon was too far away, so we got a ring around the sun.
Ring of fire.
And that becomes what they call the ring of fire. Yeah. So that's how close we're talking about. If we get just to the outside of the orbit of the moon, at that point, it's not big enough in our sky to be able to completely cover.
All right, so we go from partial to Bailey's beads, diamond ring, bam, totality. Totality begins. And I don't know, are you planning to have horns down at Great Lakes Science Center?
We're still working through exactly how we want to announce it to everybody down there, but there will be an announcement. I mean, one, you're clearly going to see it, because I'll tell you, right after that last diamond ring, man, you see that last solitaire diamond ring go away, then you know it's time. You'll start to hear the hoots. You'll start to hear the hollers.
Glasses off.
You know, you'll get cowbells and air horns and stuff going off.
You know, I'm always looking for sports analogies.
Oh, geez.
I found one.
Uh-oh.
This is the world's largest wave. You know, you go to a sporting event and they cheer around the stadium.
Yeah.
This cheer is going to start in Mexico, and this wave's going to go all the way to Maine. It's the world's largest wave.
Yes. There you go.
I'll be cheering.
And fortunately, NASA's going to be broadcasting. We're broadcasting here in Cleveland, but we're also set up in other locations along the path. So you get kind of that same thing you see at New Year's Eve, where one city celebrates, the next city celebrates.
Right.
So you get that wave effect.
Sure.
Be going across.
I have another really silly question for you. I love the space station, and I have the app on my phone where I can follow its path. I'm wondering, what, if anything, they'll be able to see? They're too high to see anything, aren't they?
They're not too high to see any of it, actually. So astronauts have seen the shadow of the moon go across the surface.
Wow. Oh my God.
The moon's shadow is definitely visible through the windows of the space station. We have gotten a question before of, well, do they get to see the eclipse up towards the sun and the moon? They potentially could. The station itself could experience a solar eclipse that way.
They'd have to be in the path, though, wouldn't they?
The windows do not face in that direction in a way that they would be able to get a very good look. We do point cameras, though, and actually this time we're tracking, it looks like there is a potential where the space station may cross.
That was my next question.
Yes.
That would be like 4 moons coming together all at once.
Right. Well, and exactly 4 moons, and the one that we're talking about moving at over 17,500 miles an hour.
Right.
So their eclipse is very, very, very
brief.
tiny. It's very brief.
All right.
So we're going to give it a shot, and hopefully they can get some camera pictures of it. But we know that there could be some deviation there. So.
All right, Brandon, let's take a picture of the corona. So the cool thing about totality, you completely block out the disk of the sun. This is the only way we can see the atmosphere of the sun's corona. It is amazing.
Is this an actual picture we're looking at, or a rendition?
No, this is an actual picture. The craziness of it is that, and this was the big moment. I heard you, Betsy, talk about the moment that was your reveal at Jefferson City. This was my moment. Because at that moment with totality, you take the glasses off. None of this corona is visible in the daylight sky because the sun is too glaringly bright. The disk of the sun's too bright.
But it's always there.
It's always there. And so when you take those glasses off, it's just a massive reveal, and you don't realize that the diameter of the sun, you're talking multiple diameters across the sky in every direction.
Of the corona
of
the
this
sun.
atmosphere of the sun.
How was that picture taken? Because clearly that's like an advanced lens. I won't see that.
Yes, you will.
You'll see
it with your eyes.
Yes,
You
it's
won't see it
very
with your
wispy
phone.
white. Yes, wispy white atmosphere on the blue. Countered up against the blue atmosphere of our sky.
And what is that? That's energy from the sun?
Yes,
It's heat?
It's the solar energy and the material that is our sun fusing and then radiating out into the solar system.
Does it have to be a perfectly clear blue sky day, or if what some of the weather Betsy's talking about we could see, will that be visible?
That should be visible as long as we're talking about the either the high deck clouds,
Right.
or yes, or
just
clear
a
skies.
glimpse. Like
That
I can't even
picture
tell you.
is breathtaking.
Prayer. I just want people to see it.
How was it
It's
when you
so
were in
great.
Jefferson City? Was it clear? Was it?
We had a high cloud deck, so
Oh, yeah,
we
that's
had
right.
cirrus clouds, but you could still see it, and it just took your breath away. And I was standing with Dr. Janet Kavandi, who's a 3-time astronaut. She was the center director at NASA Glenn at the time, and she and I watched Totality together, and she was like, "Wow, she's a 3-time astronaut!" Like, I mean, come on.
I have another question for you. I think we talked one time about, you said you had been to a night launch of the space shuttle.
I got to see launches in Florida when I
When
was
I lived in Florida, I got to within the media viewing area of a night launch.
Ooh.
And people had told me for months leading up to it, you won't have words to describe it. Everything they said was true. Where you could see the audio, the sound waves coming across the body of water, and then it washes over you well after it had cleared the tower. That took my breath away like no event that I've ever witnessed. How will that compare to this?
This is a totally different ballgame.
Better?
This is
Or
so
different?
rare. That's the rarity of it. You
Yeah.
are seeing something that has not happened over Northeast Ohio in
1806.
1806.
Wow.
Because you know how good I am at math, everybody.
No,
So
that's
200 years.
218 years.
There he
To,
is.
to give you an idea, 1806 was the year that Moses Cleveland died. So that's how long ago we were talking.
Now, will this event occur in another 218 years?
So it doesn't work quite that way. So I heard you ask about how do you calculate, how do you figure that out? So there is this thing called the Saros cycle. Basically, we're talking about BCE era Babylonian astronomers that started to document every eclipse and when they happened, and started to notice a pattern that the same pattern of cycle would occur every approximately 18 years. The pattern of the eclipse matched, but it was offset. So it wasn't exactly the same spot on the surface of the planet because the planet rotated a little further. Also, it would be a little higher, a little lower latitude.
Right.
But you could predict the same pattern and then the same sequence, and so you could see that happen, and that's where you can start predicting. So it's called the Saros cycle, and you can actually predict exactly when each of these patterns happen on the planet, and then they keep repeating just a little bit further around the planet.
We have another picture of the corona to show you too, just to kind of show you. So the cool part too is the sun is not, it's not a snapshot of the sun. The sun is a living, breathing thing. I mean, it is active. So you may actually see, if we get to see the corona, you may see movement, and you may see big jets of energy coming out of the side of the sun behind the moon.
Yeah, they're called coronal mass ejections, and it does happen. And it's happening again. It's happening all the time.
Are those the things that they'll say sometimes interfere with our cell phones?
That creates the solar wind, which then gets over to the Earth when it finally gets to us in the solar system, and then from there, that can create, because it's electromagnetic interference. That's what can create the degradation in the signals.
Are those predictable or no?
Not as every so often this is exactly when the an ejection is going to happen.
Right.
But it is predictable in terms of how active or dormant the sun is. So we have what's called solar highs, solar lows. It's a solar cycle. It's a different cycle that about every 11 years we have a very active sun, and then we start to dwindle down, and we have a more dormant and low activity sun. Sunspots will look different, and if there is, we do have a graphic of that, I believe.
Yeah, we do, side by side, the solar maximum and minimum, Brandon.
Yeah.
There it is.
And so you can see the level of activity on the left.
And this cycles every 11 years or so?
Yeah, and so we have these cycles, and we are hitting right into a maximum right now.
So makes it even better.
Right. So the possibility of seeing those ejecta that you see on the right-hand side image is even more likely during this eclipse because we're at solar maximum.
And we might actually like get to see it like moving, like
boom,
the
a
actual
blast.
like.
Yes.
Okay, this is way off topic, but why is it cycling every 11 years?
It's
like, is it heating and cooling and heating and cooling?
It's
or?
just
Sorry, Bets.
Yeah, you get a little bit
This
beyond.
is the 8-year-old on Candy that I asked to
No,
be here.
I'm fascinated by that.
You're getting a little bit beyond the heliophysicists that'll be down at Great Lakes Science Center this weekend will be able to nail that down. I will say that it's observed, and so I can even harken back to my 9th grade, Earth science classes and looking at this, and it's like, oh yeah, we started counting how many sunspots existed, and you can see this up and down sine wave type pattern.
That's wild.
So it's observable for sure, and it's just the nature of a ball of fusing solar material, star material, that does have these patterns to it.
It's so cool. And you mentioned you were at Jefferson City. I have some pictures that I brought back with me from Jefferson City in 2017. This is on the path to totality, right?
Right in the shadow of the Capitol.
Right in the shadow of the Capitol. We're literally across the street. I was embedded with NASA Glenn, who was doing outreach at that event because Dr. Janet Kavandi had a special connection with Missouri. She's from Missouri. So we got to go and watch with them. This is about maybe 20 minutes to totality or so. You can see the light starting to change a little bit. It's a funky color.
It's almost like the golden hour a little bit.
It's not gold. It's
not
blue and gray. Like it's a weird, funky color.
It just looks like an off.
Yeah, and you may notice this is when the colors start to shift a little bit as you're looking around. People, you mentioned to me, Chris, will often wear red and green or have some red and green going because it sorts out those red and green wavelengths, and it everything just starts to look real funky, and
Grayish,
you're like,
yeah.
something is amiss.
Wow.
It definitely shows up. All right, let's go to the next picture too. This is during totality.
Okay, now that looks like dusk.
That's what we will experience. It's not pitch dark night. And that's the other thing I was hoping to be able to like explain to people. It's not, we keep saying we're going into darkness. It's not like it's going to be 3 o'clock in the morning all of a sudden and then bam, we're back. It goes into dusk and all the street lights will come on. When we were there, it was summertime and it was August, and the crickets started chirping. The birds went to roost. So everything got real quiet. There was a little breeze, like at nightfall, you get that little breeze. The breeze kicked up. And then we got to kind of enjoy that for only like 2 minutes. It wasn't very long at all.
Yeah, it was a little less than 2 minutes. The temperature did drop significantly.
Yes, it did.
And that day
How much?
Oh, so we can see between 6 and 10 degrees.
That fast?
Within
Could you
moments.
feel it?
Yes.
You could tell it was
can
colder. It was-
Physically feel it on your skin.
It was like, whoa!
And that day specifically, this is an interesting thing I'm looking forward to this eclipse, is that day we were in the high 90s. It was hot.
Oh, so you could really tell the
Very hot.
difference.
And so it was very noticeable, and I'm very curious to see, when we're talking about 60s, whether the feeling on your skin is actually as noticeable as it is when you're talking about a high.
What time of day was it when you experienced it? Was it around mid-afternoon?
In the afternoon,
So
yeah.
the same
It
thing.
was hot. The sun was real high in the sky.
And
it
then
was
poof.
hotter than Hades, y'all. And then all of a sudden the shadow hit. And we're like so happy. So this is me looking around during totality. So I told you, don't mess with your phone. I'm going to tell you that right now. Your phone does not do any justice to what you're seeing. It's only with your eyes that you're going to see it. Listen.
Because your iris on your phone probably opens, right?
It's just not built for it. And people have very fancy cameras that can take way better pictures. Let them handle it. But you have all senses activated for this. You have your eyes, you have your ears, because you're going to hear people cheering, but you won't hear the animals so much. You're going to feel the drop in the temperatures. And, as those temperatures drop very quickly, which is unusual, it changes the atmosphere around you. So you may feel a little bit of like a pressure change that kind of comes in. Or I actually, this might sound weird, but I kind of tasted a little bit of a difference. Like it was all of a sudden that cooling, and it was like, oh, and just, maybe it was just oversensitization that I was just
Sure.
like, everything was all
Does
jacked
it
up.
have effects on, we don't experience tides on Lake Erie, but I'm wondering, where there are tide shifts, is there any difference between the wave patterns and nothing like that?
No, this is normal cycle of the sun.
Yeah,
so
it's just
You're going to experience
dark
the same thing
and
as
light.
any other new moon
Yep.
at the same time every 4 weeks going through.
It's just geometry at this point.
I have a feeling that when it's over, I'm going to say this. I wish I could go back and do it again and slow it down. So give me advice how to suck it all in those 3 minutes.
Don't mess with your phone.
Put your phone away.
Unless you can take pictures quickly of your family, your kids, or whatever. Get it done, and then just take in that moment with your friends, family, whoever's around you.
Because it's brief.
It is so incredible. I guarantee you're going to be talking about it to your kids, your grandkids. They're going to talk about it to their friends. It is truly incredible. And I think we're going to have a lot of future astronomers that come out of this because it's that fascinating. It's such a big event in their lives.
It's funny you said that. I spoke with a 5th grade girl today at Urban Community School, and fabulous young girl. She said, we were talking about the experiments that they've been doing in class for months leading up to this to learn about it. And she said, I really want to tell you that when I grow up, I want to study math and science. And I said, oh, Betsy Kling would love to hear that. And I asked her if she knew about STEM, and I talked to her about that. But the one thing that she said, her teacher told me after, she said, because of this, because of learning about this, it sort of, she's scratching an itch now that she didn't know she had.
Yep.
And the teacher said she wants to be a physicist.
It's so cool.
Awesome.
And so how many other young people that are studying this are going to find that this is like your passion is weather and this? How many other people are going to find that this is what drives them? How did you get led to this?
Well, that's the funny part. So I started out, I did have an interest in math and science as a kid, and decided to become a math and science teacher. I taught in middle schools. What really triggered me to really be focused into astronomy and really loving this kind of part was I was fortunate, I was a graduate of Wittenberg University, and so they have an observatory on campus.
Oh.
And so one night they had an open astronomy night and an open viewing, and so they had the telescope out, and I'm looking through the eyepiece, and I'm looking directly at Saturn, and I can see the rings and the separation between the disk of the ball of Saturn and the rings themselves, and I could physically see that, and I'm like, that's not a photograph in a book. That's not.
I'm looking at it
Isn't
live.
it the best?
The planet, and it really opened my eyes, and I went for it ever since. I did math and science in the classrooms, and then classified ad in the Plain Dealer is what got me going. They said, we're looking for math and science teachers to teach at NASA. And I said, there is no chance. I am a early career math and science teacher. There's no way they want me. They would probably want a master teacher or years in. And my wife, she goes, if you do not apply for that job,
Right.
you will regret it because you never know.
Wow.
And I said, you're right. And that was the days of mailing in applications. So I overnighted the application, got it in, got called for the interview, got a call back, and I will and every day now I drive into NASA Glenn and I do the badge, and the hangar's sitting there, and you're going into this cutting edge research and technology facility, and it's play for me, and it's because of all of this, and getting to take that and turn it into, now let's get the next generation going so that they can be the next scientists and engineers and geologists and physicists that are going to be those astronauts on Mars. My daughter she swears she's going to be the first woman on Mars. That's
and
what
she
I
may well be. I got
I believe
goosebumps
her.
when you were telling me that
Right?
story.
Right?
I love it when people find their passion, chase it, and catch it. That's a great story.
Your daughter and my Violet, they'll be in the astronaut class
Maybe they'll be the
together.
first two together.
Yeah, right? Oh
Wow,
my
that's
goodness. All right, well,
fantastic.
another thing that might happen if we have a good clear sky, we might actually get to see the stars. So it's going to be dark enough in that twilight that we could see some of the planets. Jupiter will be to the upper left of our totality, and to the lower right would be Venus, and then Saturn and Mars also visible, but those will be faint. Now, additionally, and you may not really see it clearly, but just to the right of Jupiter, there's a little blip.
Looks like a comet.
That's a comet. There is a comet that's going by at this time. Can you tell us any more about that?
Well, so we are tracking that. It is a twin-tailed comet. Some people are referring it to the Devil's Comet because it looks like horns. We don't call it that, but yeah, it just happened to join the night sky game. It's all the physics, the calculations of how all these orbits happen. Most comets come out of beyond Pluto, the Oort cloud beyond Pluto, and come into our inner solar system and then back out again. So
now,
it happens to be in our sky.
Is it the same phenomenon that allows us to see these in the early morning and the late evening hours where the sky becomes dark enough where they jump out? Is that why we'll be able to see them?
I mean, it's pretty much anything that we're talking about that is in the daytime sky. So we can see Jupiter and Mars a lot of times in the nighttime sky, and it's easily visible because the sun isn't in the way. It's not just glaring at it in our faces. So all the things that we should be able to see in the nighttime sky, we can often see in the daytime sky. They're still there. They're just glared out. Mercury and Venus is a little different because they're inner planets. They're closer to the sun. So more often than not, they're in the daytime.
Were you able to see them when you were in Jefferson City?
I didn't see them.
Okay.
Those I didn't see. I wasn't specifically looking, and I'm not sure that they were
weren't aligned
in alignment.
This kind of level. Yeah, this amount of alignment. I mean, when you talk about
there's another layer.
Yeah, when you talk about the solar maximum,
the most perfect thing ever.
Yes.
The way it's all coming together.
So as long as the weather works out, it'll be good. All right, now.
That's your department.
3:15. Trust me. Pray. 3:15 peak totality or so. And then we do it all in reverse. So the slow build-up process, we peak, and then it's the slow exit process. So, we go through the exact same thing. We go from the diamond ring to the Bailey's beads to partial eclipse, and we go back into the shadows and the cool stuff. And this is really, I think, when a lot of people will start to play around with the eclipse, so to speak. So Brandon, if you'll bring up the viewing method. So this is what we're talking about when you can see little baby eclipses in every single shadow. Tell us about this, Chris.
Yeah, so like I said, anything that you see, anywhere where a glimmer of light shines, that becomes a crescent eclipse during partial eclipse, both on the front end and then here again on the back end. So you can play with it. This to me is the time where you start getting some photos that are fun.
Yep.
Because you've already experienced. So you've built up that anxiousness and anxiety ahead of time and through totality, and you got that come down. But it's still. Remember I was talking about the roller coaster. Now you're back at the station.
Right.
You've enjoyed the entire thing and you're like, that was amazing. Now you have the moment to kind of capture it and take it in and
that's
lock it in.
Post-totality start experiment with fun. So what was that? That was a
colander.
A colander.
It's great to just
with all those holes.
Every single hole had a little baby eclipse in it.
That is
hard to see.
Cheese grater, even just
leaves.
A card with
We don't have the leaves. We had the leaves in Jefferson City. Any shadow, the dappled shadows of leaves, it was little baby eclipses. It was crazy. It was nice.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was really cool. So you'll be able to see all of that, most certainly.
One other thing I'd like to, at this time that I think would be, as you're coming back out, there's a phenomenon called shadow bands. Sometimes it's harder to see on the in because your eyes are still adjusted to the brightness of the daylight, not the dark. But when you're coming out of totality, now your eyes are adjusted to the darkness, so it's a little easier to see that if you look at bright surfaces, like lay out just a big white poster board or something like that that's nice and flat and bright, you can see what look like little snakes of shadows just moving across the sidewalks or the poster board. And what it is again, because we're in that thin crescent, it's very short, 30, 60, 90 seconds after totality, just like it was before in the previous. But because the light is so focused, the little perturbations in the atmosphere of the air create these little extra shadows, and they will play along with how the air is moving.
So you can wave your hand, and it will.
And you'll
potentially
see it
you'll
move,
see
and you'll get these snakes moving along.
I've had an image in my head since I heard that this was going to coincide with the Guardians home opener. For me, being a big baseball fan, and also not as big as you, but I'm becoming a huge fan of all of this science and all of this, the moving parts of this. My favorite picture, I think, is going to be taken on the field at Progressive Field. I have an image of 50 professional baseball players who, by the way, when they're in their pregame routines, they're blinders. And I'm fascinated to see what level of interest they have. In my mind, I see 50 pro ball players with these glasses on, looking up at the sun, oohing and ahhing, just like everyone else, even though they're an hour or so from going to work. And that's what I can't wait to see that.
Well, if you want to talk interest, so we have already provided the glasses for the Guardians.
You have?
Yes. Stephen Kwan actually did a little promo to encourage eyeglasses,
that's great.
Eclipse glass safety. And you can see that online. But we've just recently, in the past couple of days, have gotten a email from the competition, and Chicago White Sox are like, "Hey, we want glasses too."
Really?
So they're asking for them as well. We're gonna
see,
apply.
that makes me happy because I know they're
interested.
serious about their jobs.
Right.
But this is a once in a lifetime thing.
They'll get it.
And I just can't wait to see them stop BP or throwing around or whatever they're doing and all be staring up at the same thing in the sky.
And in this case, not only because I in my opinion, made a really smart move and opened the gates pre-Eclipse, not only will it be the players as well, but you've got the entire bowl of opening day.
Yeah.
Right.
That will also have that opportunity to be able to do the same thing right along with them.
Now, did you provide the White Sox with the glasses?
So yeah, we want to be inclusive of everybody.
Pinholes in there. No, I'm kidding.
They're going to be dropping fly balls all day and not knowing why.
Why can't
They're not ISO certified.
We are gonna, we're
evil, Betsy.
We're gonna make sure that we provide them, but we ask them in the same way. So the whole point of this is the reason why we're providing glasses to as many people as we can. Why we're gonna have them down at the festival is that we want to promote this eye safety and making sure that people enjoy the Eclipse, but enjoy the Eclipse in a safe way. So we've got this eye safety campaign called #ShowUsYourSpecs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just them; it's for all of people that are going to be enjoying and looking at the Eclipse. That we would encourage everybody, put your Eclipse glasses on. Does not have to be the NASA ones, but you can do any type that you're wearing. Put them on, look out in the daytime sky, get that picture, and then #ShowUsYourSpecs so that we can just encourage everybody to safely watch the Eclipse.
Now, Betsy, are you going to? Where are you going to? You're going to be?
I'm going to be at the Science Center, and actually, that's what I wanted to ask you about next. What is happening? The Science Center is the place to be. It's going to be bananas. Just be prepared.
It is the
Downtown
place to be.
is
How
going to
many
be
folks
bananas.
will be there, do you think?
Well, so largely depends on the weather. So we're doing all 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. All of it's 10 to 5 p.m. So between having the Women's Final Four and they have a day off, and we have the International Film Festival. So they're predicting about 40,000. International Film Festival is predicting 70,000 in the area. And of course, they're not watching movies every single hour. No. So they might be joining us. And then we have the opening day. And that starts at 2, but the rest of the day is available. So we can, are expecting that as long as the weather holds out we could see 100,000 people over the weekend of the festival.
It's going to be so
which would be
fun.
phenomenal.
And you got so much going on down there. Tell us about some of the. By the way, Brandon, can we cue up Matt? Because we'll see if Matt can chat with us next. You'll meet Matt in just a moment. Okay, what's going on down there?
Oh my gosh. So we are super excited for this. So we have created what's called the NASA Village. And the NASA Village is over 10 tents of science and NASA science and engineering. We have focused it and basically split it into 2 sides. One side is the space side that we're sure everybody's going to enjoy. We have a full-scale model of the Viper rover that's going to be launching and going to the moon later this year. We have a full-scale test unit that was actually tested at NASA Glenn of a fission surface power plant that we can use on the moon. So we're trying to.
NASA Glenn is power propulsion,
we're
baby.
Going. That's right.
Wow.
I like it. We put the go in We Are Go for all of NASA. NASA Glenn puts the go in it. So we've got that. We've got the stuff that we're doing with Artemis and returning back to the moon, and we've got Artemis 2 coming up in 2025, and getting the first people back around the moon since the 1970s.
Wow.
So we got that side, but we also are including the aeronautics side, the other A in NASA. People don't realize how much we contribute to aeronautics. So we have talking about advanced air mobility and how we use drones and AI and machine learning to provide the next generation of air traffic and air traffic management. Wow. Quest, our X-59 supersonic demonstrator, is going to test flying supersonic over land, which is currently not allowed, so that we can verify that we have the technology to remove sonic booms and turn them into sonic thumps. So instead of hearing glass shaking, potentially glass breaking, supersonic transit across the land, which is why it's currently not allowed over the United States, you'll hear The sound of a car door closing in your neighbor's driveway.
How in the world is that going to happen?
So we know how to build and dissipate those sonic waves and pressure waves that create sonic booms. And if we, get a crest here and a trough here, we can cancel them all out, and then you won't get the sound.
Engineering is a beautiful thing.
Marvel.
This is amazing.
We also have our Journey to Tomorrow trailer, which is kind of a good intro of all things NASA. And in the back of that, there is a moon rock in our new moon room. So it actually is a surround panorama of the location where the rock you can get a photo with it was picked up on the moon. So much cool stuff there.
And this is available to anybody that comes down there.
It's free for everybody to come down. Free. And then not to mention the biggest thing, which is like I said, the NASA TV broadcast for the Eclipse from 1 to 4 will be right here. It's going to be coming with a NASA stage right in the middle of the village.
Are schools planning to come down and visit this and watch? I know they are, but I would think that, okay, we're not going to be in school, but if I was an administrator, I would say, we're going to take a field trip that day and we're going to go. So I would hope there would be large groups of people, young people, that can go and learn.
I specifically haven't heard of any specific field trip sets.
Right.
Obviously, we are closing the road from Brown Stadium to the Rock Hall and back, so that everybody can walk around and see this. So they might be dropping off right by the harbor. I'm not sure. Yeah. But like Betsy said, a lot of schools are closing, which to me is a good idea because of the timing. It's right during dismissal, so a lot of kids would have ended up seeing the eclipse or not seeing the eclipse during buses, when they're just driving home.
Or getting stuck in traffic.
So instead say, you know what, take this opportunity, go see the eclipse with your family, with your friends, and enjoy it. And on top of it, as a side effect, if like me, sorry, I can't go to work today, my kids are off, I have to go and enjoy the eclipse.
Oh, darn.
Oh, bummer. Yeah. What a shame.
You get to enjoy it.
It is going to be awesome. Traffic is going to be crazy. Parking is going to be crazy. I know RTA Waterfront Line will be running. So if you've not done that before, you can literally hop on a train from Tower City that will take you out to Brown Stadium. They drop you off and then they can go back. So you can take trains into Tower City or just be prepared to park and walk. That's probably going to end up being the big thing, is parking downtown Cleveland. But of course, getting to downtown Cleveland is a little bit of a challenge too. You stay right here, Chris, if you've got time. Sure. We'll come back and we'll chat with you in just a minute. I do want to bring Matt Bruning in from ODOT though. He is joining us live and ODOT has been preparing for this just like everybody else has been preparing for this. Matt, tell us a little bit about the plan that ODOT kind of has in place in advance of the total solar eclipse. And by the way, thank you so much for joining us too.
Absolutely. Happy to help, Betsy. ODOT has been planning for 2 years, more than 2 years. We've been talking to other states. We've been talking to other agencies to make sure that we have everything we need in place. And a lot of it is just staging people and equipment, message boards, those kinds of things, so that we're fully prepared to deal with all the heavy traffic that we expect we're going to see.
Yeah, and let's chat a little bit about the lead up to Totality. So if you've talked to some other states, and Chris and I have mentioned we were in Missouri, and I can remember everything just kind of stops. People know it's coming. They wait till the last minute every time, because that's what people do. So they're like in the car as Totality is approaching. People were pulling over on the sides of the highways to watch the total solar eclipse. Obviously, that is not what we want people to do. How are you starting to kind of get that word out? And is there anything that you can do to avoid that?
I wish there was a silver bullet for avoiding that. If I could find it, I'd use it. Unfortunately, it's just been a lot of interviews like this with media to try to get the information out there. Like, folks, find a good place to watch the eclipse, but it's not the side of the highway. It's not the side of the interstate. You need to have a plan in place. Plan ahead, prepare, and then be patient. And one of our biggest concerns, honestly, guys, is that I kind of equate this to a fireworks show, right? Everybody kind of trickles in, and then the grand finale goes off, and everybody gets in their car at the same time and leaves. Yep, exactly. And this is totally different than any other event you could even conceive. The 2016 RNC was a big deal. That was confined to Cleveland. We've had World Series, we've had All-Star games, we've had other big events, but they've been confined to a city. This is literally multiple counties, tens of thousands of square miles of people all doing the same thing at the same time and then wanting to leave that same thing at the same time. That's where we're really concerned about having the big traffic congestion. And that's what we've heard from the other states that experienced 2017 totality, is that the traffic will be much, much worse after than before.
That's what I keep trying to tell our folks is like, traffic and weather, traffic and weather, traffic and weather, and the lead up. But at the end, literally at 3:30, everybody's going to go, that's it. And they're all going to take off. And then that's when things are just absolutely super gridlocked. So any other words of advice for folks? Reroutes, detours? I mean, is there any other place that, you have the inside scoop that you can give our viewers to know kind of a pathway to think of ahead of time?
Well, I think every road is going to be very busy. I mean, you think about the fact that many of these roads were built for hundreds of vehicles per day. They're going to be seeing thousands, if not 10,000s of vehicles on that day. So it's just going to be busy everywhere. I think people are just going to have to be patient, pack a lot of extra patience is kind of the way we say it, because it is going to take you a lot longer, probably 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 times longer to get to your destination once you were trying to leave the Eclipse than it would, say, on a normal Monday. It's just going to take a long time. Top off your fuel tanks, because we heard from other states we had people running out of gas while they were waiting in traffic, and that was causing additional issues. So that's just another piece of advice I could give people. It's going to take a lot of time. Enjoy the show, come early, stay late, and pack some patience.
Yeah, and I don't know if folks remember, I think it was 2006 was the Great American Blackout, quote, quote. And downtown just evacuated. Everybody was like, all right, well, computer won't run, I'm out of here. Everybody left at once. It was pandemonium and chaos because it was complete and total gridlock for downtown and miles around. We could be looking at that again. So hours of waiting for traffic to dissipate. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, and that's not a lack of planning on our part. It's not a lack of planning on anybody's part. You just can't put 7 gallons of water in a 5-gallon bucket. And that's what we're going to be seeing. We're going to see a lot more people than we have capacity on the road network for, because everybody's going to be interested in it. Now, of course, one of the big things that there'll be a big factor in that, as you well know, will be the weather. If we have cloudy skies in Ohio and we have sunny skies in Indiana, we're going to see a lot more traffic in Western Ohio as everybody tries to shift over there. Or if the opposite is true, we're going to have a lot more people coming into Ohio from other states. So we'll have to wait and see what the weather holds up too.
Yeah, my best advice to folks is get where you're going to be for total eclipse at 2:30. By 2:30, yep. be in your spot, be ready to go. If you want a really good spot, you better get there a lot earlier than 2:30. But plan on staying later, like if you can do it a couple hours. And that's where the folks at the Science Center are going to get crushed, because they're going to have a big bunch of people coming down going, hey, we've got this whole thing we want to do. Matt Bruning from ODOT, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. This was supposed to be 20 or 30 minutes, and we're probably sneaking up on an hour easily. Thank you for hanging out and listening to us. And thank you to the men and women of ODOT who do so much to keep our roads in order and going, from plowing to pothole filling. You all are true heroes without capes, and we can't thank you enough.
Well, we can't thank you enough for helping us get the word out about things like this. It really does help. You guys are a big part of that, so thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. All right, Matt, have a great night, and hopefully we won't have to talk to you about too much pandemonium, but we'll be talking to you on Monday, I'm sure.
I'll be here if you need me.
All right,
thanks.
Take care.
You too.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing, is that a lot of people are going to be looking for stuff to do afterward. The game comes in clutch, because anybody who's at the ballpark or they have tickets for the game, you're set, because by the end of the game, most likely traffic should be alleviated. But it's going to be a long afternoon.
Yeah, I try and tell everybody. We did it in Jefferson City. We started the day with a hazy day. People were like, should we move? Should we go? Should we? And I got to the point where I said, at this point, you're getting close. Keep in mind, whatever you think you're about doing, so are 50,000 other of our new closest friends. They're all thinking the same thing. So if you go and try and get on the highway and go somewhere else right now, so will everybody else, and then you'll be enjoying the eclipse from the edge of the highway, which is not as enjoyable as what you could do.
Not as fun. And another thing you might be able to do is do a little shopping. Bring cash. and a credit card, but know that bandwidth around you will be minimal.
Oh, yeah, that's
Everybody's
right.
going to be on their phones. Everybody. And there's not that many cell phone towers, so you won't necessarily have your Apple Wallet and all that stuff to do. So have some cash on hand. And there's going to be things that you can get, okay? This is a hot chocolate bomb from Sweet Designs in Lakewood. They came up with these. You get your own little Eclipse glasses. But literally, you put this chocolate bomb in milk, and it becomes amazing hot chocolate. Sweet Designs, my favorite chocolatier in Northeast Ohio. Absolutely incredible. I bequeath you a hot chocolate bomb because I know how much you love hot chocolate.
Are you going to take this away after the show?
No,
like
that's
this really,
yours. That's
you
yours.
know how much I love hot chocolate.
I know how much you love hot chocolate.
That's amazing.
The Monsters are also capitalizing on this amazing event, and they have put out the Total Solar Eclipse T-shirt. I think everybody who goes to the game.
I think it's
are gonna be
Saturday.
doing
And
that,
did you get the box was so creative. They had a moon pie.
Right, a moon pie.
And sun crackers. Or sun chips.
Sun chips. It was so
cute. It was great.
I totally
beautiful
destroyed
marketing.
both. But anyway, so this is a really awesome keepsake, and if you go to the game, you get it. That's
cool.
fun, right?
Very nice.
Obviously, you'll be able to Eclipse glasses. These are like gold right now, but I've been stashing these for a while. You have Eclipse glasses,
I
right?
do.
Okay.
I do.
My parents have asked, so that's why I have that. And then there's the merch. There's going to be so many people capitalizing
Cleveland
on this
loves
opportunity.
our T-shirts.
I buy Christmas ornaments every vacation wherever we go, so that every Christmas we go over what we did. Blah blah blah. Mom things. I have my Jefferson City cool
neat
Eclipse Christmas ornament that I bought, and I have this T-shirt, which is my favorite T-shirt on the planet. This is the diagram of the eclipse. Do you remember this one?
I do remember that one, yes.
Folks, it glows in the dark. It's my favorite shirt ever. I love
What does the
writing? Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I will charge this bad boy up, and when I go in to tuck in my daughters for night,
you're glowing
at night, I'll turn the light out, and they're like, "Mom."
That is pretty fun, though.
But I love it. It's my favorite shirt ever.
Do you think there'll be stands downtown
There will be
of people
T-shirts.
selling
There will
T-shirts?
be people selling all kinds of stuff. Just
great.
be careful. You know the drill with safety and money and all that stuff and fanny packs and all that. But there will be things. Obviously, the Great Lakes Science Center is going to have stuff that is available for purchase. I'm sure NASA is going to have their swag trailer out.
Actually,
No?
we're going to be, we because we wanted to make sure we were totally free and
That's true.
ultimately everything, I mean, we'd be out so fast.
Yeah.
So we do have the Great Lakes Science Center
There
gift shop.
is
They provide NASA
gear.
provide NASA
Yeah.
gear for us there.
That's noble, because I know there are so many companies that are trying to capitalize and make money off of this once-in-a-lifetime event, and NASA's like, no, we're good.
Yeah.
Just come and enjoy it for free.
One other thing that you can participate in all of this is some of the science experiments that are going on. So NASA scientists and some of their partner agencies, including students at college and whatnot, have put together research that can only be done in the path of totality. So you have a chance to help out. One of those is a really cool one called Soundscapes. It's like the easiest one ever that you can participate in, and you don't have to do it necessarily at totality. You can put in your information afterward. Check out what Soundscapes is all about.
During a total solar eclipse, it is almost like day becomes night very quickly.
So knowing that there's going to be a change in that light and life-giving energy means that we can predict when animals are going to have a rapid shift in their behavior,
which results in changes in the acoustic environment or the soundscape.
So the Eclipse Soundscapes project is a project to determine how eclipses affect life here on Earth.
And there's a lot more to observation than just what you see. It's also important to think about what you hear.
We're measuring how the rapid onset of darkness during an eclipse affects wildlife by measuring the changes in sounds that they make.
The general public is best suited for this type of project because the general public is everywhere.
And that's really the power of the participatory science component of this project. It enables recordings and observations of soundscapes across the diversity of ecosystems covered by the path of totality. We might think of some ecosystems having a greater influence of human activities on the soundscape, whereas in other ecosystems, say a remote part of a national park, we might have a lower influence of human activities and greater influence from the sounds of life and Earth.
Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas will conduct a similar study for the upcoming total solar eclipse on April 8, 2024.
the only way to properly preserve a species is to understand it. The only way to understand it is through scientific study on their behavior, their patterns, and their habitat requirements. One of the things we'll be doing during the total solar eclipse is setting up these recording stations. So these are our acoustic monitoring stations. And what we're doing is listening for calls of the different bat species with the hopes of maybe picking up some of those endangered species like the northern long-eared bat.
A long-eared bat is shown.
We're hoping the results of this study will inform us about the health of our bat populations on Hot Springs National Park and help improve future conservation efforts.
The Eclipse Soundscapes project is an inclusive and accessible project that is inviting the general public to get involved in NASA science alongside scientists and subject matter experts.
Wherever you take your observations, you might be giving us information that has never been recorded before. And that is really useful and interesting to a scientist.
A logo shows planets in the path of the sun's rays. Title, Heliophysics Big Year. In another logo, a white curve orbits the title, NASA. Accessibility provided by the U.S. Department of Education.
I pulled the sound assist track.
No, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like it. And they talk so fast, most certainly. All right, so obviously, this is a really great opportunity because you're going to be a part of one of the world's biggest science experiments, and we, being in the path of totality, have a front row seat to be able to do this. So the big question is, how do you get involved? Well, Dr. Lisa Winter with NASA has more on that.
That one, there is an online form that you can fill out. There's also a training that you can do that tells you how to do it. So if you are involved with a large group, say a bunch of kids at a school, they have a lot of great tutorials on how to do that and do that in an easy way.
Yep. There's an app for that. You knew there would be. And there's actually quite a few of these citizen science experiments that you can participate in. We have information on that, WKYC.com. Look for Betsy's links. Supposedly it's in a whole bunch of different places, but Betsy's links, and you'll be able to see the citizen science. And they have so many cool things that are taking place right now. So you too can be a part of NASA. I think that's a pretty sweet gig to be able to do. And the kids will be engaged.
Absolutely. We love when we get an opportunity, and an observable universe is one of the easiest ways a citizen science can work, because it's so easy for everybody to say, here's what I observed, here's what I did. And when you aggregate that kind of data all across a path like that, you can get information and patterns and trends that you would not be able to get in just individual investigations or experiments.
Wow. Yeah, well, we have covered all the things that I had questions about leading up to
Can I ask one more
Jefferson
silly question?
City. There are no silly questions.
Okay, well, this one's silly.
Well, this is you.
So this is moving at 1,700 miles per hour?
1,500-ish, yeah.
Okay, 1,500. So I have a hypothetical for you. If I could devise a spacecraft, an aircraft, that could travel at 1,500 miles an hour, and I flew directly over the expected path of totality, would I be in the eclipse zone for the entire path as I was moving at the same speed it was?
Conceivably, that would be the case, yes. You would just continue to be able to see the eclipse in that same path. Now, I will say at 1,500 miles an hour, you're talking about supersonic.
Yeah, not likely to happen.
Mach 2.
But with all this future aerospace stuff you're working on, maybe that's a new project you can throw on the NASA plate.
Maverick, Tom Cruise went like Mach 10, at least for a minute. So,
and
I mean,
if Tom Cruise can do it,
right?
But it would be cool. Imagine if you were in a ship that was traveling that speed, you would just be in the totality for as long as the
totally want to do that.
That would be pretty exciting.
It would be incredible.
Yeah. It would be like our flight innovations and our future of aviation, which you had mentioned merch, and so we don't have merch, but we did want to bring out one thing specifically because you asked about it. One thing, if you do come and join us at the NASA Village, we are showcasing for the first time ever these wonderful postcards that are for NASA Glenn specifically, and have little snippets and images of some of the greatest things that we do at NASA. Not just rocket science. We talk about how person that worked at NASA Glenn actually created the NASA insignia
Yeah.
that we are all familiar with. And then obviously all of our Ohio astronauts and innovations in aviation, as well as prolific science and research. So
Women in science.
you can collect this entire set of 6 postcards in our tents while you're doing research.
So you can go around and pick them up.
Pick them up each time, and they are free. And Betsy, this set specifically is for you.
That's one of how many thousands? You have the
but it's mine.
There you
it's
go.
It's mine, but I'm going to get those framed because I love them. I am really big on
these. It would make a cool picture with all 6 of them in the frame.
Art styles, so the retro style is so cool. Chris, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Literally, I was like, oh, we might go 20, maybe 30 minutes.
Oh, I knew there was no way that was going to happen.
Hour 15.
Stop it.
Yeah. But Betsy, I have to say, as an outsider, because I don't live in this universe as much as you do, I think I was thoroughly entertained just listening.
Are you prepared now?
I know more about it now. I will watch it differently. I think better.
Yes.
And my hope is this will live on the website so people can view it on demand later.
Yeah.
I hope a lot of people that are interested in it will watch this because it really is kind of a 1 hour, 15-minute go-to, fire up, tailgate episode that you have to watch before you fully enjoy the eclipse.
Yeah.
And you did I did nothing. You put all this together. I want to commend you.
Thank you.
You've got a future in this business, young lady.
Thank you.
No, I thought it was very educational and very well put together. And Chris, you added immensely to the whole thing.
It was
So
great.
It's my pleasure.
it was awesome.
So now you know what to eclipse while we're eclipsing.
That's
There you
it.
go. All right. Well, thank you so much for staying with us for this whole thing. Thanks to Brandon Simmons for manning the controls for us. We have a huge day planned on Monday here on 3. We have a special from 2 to 4. We are going to be eclipsing right along with everybody else. We're going to be taking peeks at what's going on around the country too, thanks to our friends at NBC. At 4 o'clock, we go into pregame. So we're going to be getting you ready for the White Sox versus the Guardians with, of course, first pitch at 5:10. I believe Biebs is on the mound. Who's on the mound?
Well, who better to be on the mound? He's 2-0 and pitching like Cy Young again.
There you go.
So
well, hopefully that continues for us. So now you know. Now we're just going to wait and see what the weather forecast is. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that, not only on all of our weathercasts, but of course online too. Chris Hartenstein, NASA Glenn, such a treasure here in Northeast Ohio. Thank you so much for joining us and helping us
Betsy.
out.
Thanks, Jake.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks so much and enjoy the eclipse.